How did you first hear about Men Inspire?
Well, I was going through some challenges in my life, big time, in my marriage. I had backslid pretty bad, and met a brother, Greg McCall, and said he invited me a couple times. Took about 3 or 4 invites before finally I just thought it'd be a good thing. My family was, disassembling. My wife and I were splitting up, so I was at rock bottom for sure.
How'd you hear about Men Inspired?
Well, I started going to Pig's group with Greg, and I met you a couple times, Fritz, so I knew you had the group in there, and so then I called you one day. I wanted to meet with you, get some advice from you, spiritual advice, and we talked, and you said, hey, why don't you come and check out our group? And I was glad I did, because it really got my foundation in order.
So yeah, what was that like when you first started? When you first started going to church? I know you started going to church back in like what, 2000 or something like that.
1999, I was received Jesus as my Lord and Savior. A couple weeks after receiving that, I was leading prayer groups, Bible studies, an usher, and then a few months after that I went on the road with the traveling minister, going church to church. I was invited behind closed doors with other pastors in their prayer time. I was invited after church services into pastors' homes with their families, and got to see a lot of behind the scenes with ministers and pastors, prayer and conversation. So I was advanced as a baby Christian really quickly, and I never allowed myself to lay any kind of foundation. And as you know, the storms will come, and the storms did come. My foundation wasn't there at all, so they hit hard, brother.
Yeah.
I always struggle with lust of the flesh, so Satan used that tool and brought the storms, and my foundation cracked, and my family was pretty much destroyed through lots of anger and lust of the flesh.
So what do you think, looking back now, what are you doing to change that now? What are some of the foundational things you're doing to change the way you approach life?
Well, Galatians 5, fruits of the Spirit, love, joy, peace, patience, kindness. I always started at self-control and got to faithfulness and then failed. I didn't have love in my life. I didn't have a love for myself, first of all, so I didn't know how to love anybody else. So that's the first thing. Actually, you gave me that advice in our meeting, and that was a big help. And then teamed up with, I have to crucify my flesh every day. If I let my flesh rise up higher than my spirit, then I struggle again. So I have to crucify my flesh daily so that my spirit can rise up. And that's painful and difficult.
How did your wife respond to that? I mean, when you, like after you met with me, you went and talked with her, you weren't living together at that time?
No, the house was empty. We were basically a signature away from the divorce being final. 90 days was up. She didn't want anything to do with me. I was selling the house. I was living at a friend's house. And met with you. Just started digging into the Word and submit myself to God fully, which is scary when you're going into it initially, because you don't know what's going to happen. Mm-hmm. And you really have to be transparent, which I didn't care to be, because I worried about what people thought, you know. Mm-hmm. So I just became transparent and started flushing all the negative stuff out of my life. I had to disconnect from a lot of soul ties and people in my life that were no good, no good for me. I had to make a change, and they had to know what I was going to stand for from there on out. Mm-hmm. And that was tough. because a lot of them I looked up to for a lot of years. So, yeah. But so then I just stayed in the Word and just prayed and just offered my whole life up to God. And basically, I was at rock bottom. I just offered my whole life up to Him. It was His. And He started making a change in me and renewed my spirit and gave me a hunger again and showed me love, you know, because I didn't deserve it. I didn't deserve His love by a long shot. And He showed me love, and He told me that my wife would see it. I didn't have to beg her back, you know.
Wow.
And I didn't believe it at first.
Yeah.
And a couple days went by, and she's looking at apartments, and she needed my signature co-signer. So I went to meet her. I'm like, that's fine, you know, if this is what you want, let's do it. And went to meet with a pastor and did some heavy praying, and got a text message that said, don't sign those papers, we need to talk.
Wow.
And God moved in. God showed up and softened her heart, so she'd allow me back, and she wanted to move back in the house as a family. So we're gonna set up separate bedrooms because she wanted to see some proof, you know, and she deserved that. I mean, there was a lot of times where I said, you know, this is the last time I'll change, you know. I've said that a million times, and she deserved to see some proof and some changes that were long term, that were God, and not my flesh just, you know, trying to do it. So, yeah, I went from being destroyed, I didn't want to work, to God moved in and put my family back in the same house, under the same roof. And now I serve God first, and I serve my wife second, and I didn't know that doing chores and, you know, taking care of her and having an actual relationship with her would make her blossom to where she is today, and myself. I didn't know that. I wasn't raised doing chores. The men usually went to work, and the wife did chores. And, I didn't know what love was, but today I do.
Wow. So she's pretty surprised when you started helping out. What kinds of things did you do? Were you cleaning bathrooms and doing
Cleaning
stuff like
bathrooms on my hands and knees. Pretty humbling experience.
that? Yeah.
I wouldn't have bought a house with 3 bathrooms if I knew how that was.
That's good.
I started doing dishes, and she'd go in to put some dishes in the dishwasher, and they'd already be done and emptied, and she'd try to do laundry, and there wouldn't be enough to do a full load because I just stay on top of it.
Yeah.
And just really attempt to serve her, you know. God was showing me, serve your wife.
Yeah.
And take care of her, and when she's not exhausted at the end of the day, you know, she can serve you and be with you and be your wife and your companion. But when she's just exhausted from running the house, it's over. So like the next week, I told her I was gonna make dinner, which I never cook anything but maybe ramen noodles.
Yeah.
And I said, I'm gonna cook for you, you know, a nice dinner. And she said, she texted me, you know, where'd my husband go? Because this is different. So I went to Hy-Vee, and I spent it took me like 2 hours in the grocery store because I don't know where anything is. I just don't do that. And I spent like $120 on one meal because I don't know what to buy. And I'm sure I bought way too much, the wrong stuff. But anyway, I pulled a recipe off the internet for chicken marsala, and I wanted to make that because that's her favorite dish. And there's a couple things that didn't turn out right, you know, skillet temperature is tough to get, but other than that, it was pretty good for a first attempt.
All right.
But she was shocked. Had the table set, dessert, everything was ready to go, and she enjoyed it. But she's, yeah. But, you know, people in the family, it takes some time to forgive, because they've seen a lot of my actions, you know.